Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about chatbots and let's start with the definition.
When persons wants to be served by a contact center, they always stand on the line and wait until the answer. And there is a music inside of the line and some speech like, you are very important for us, please hold the line. And you will get an answer like in 10 minutes. And if you will hear this, maybe you will hang off and you'll think, no, I don't want to wait so long. So in this case, IT guys will offer you, okay, like 90% of all requests could be served by artificial intellect or some chat bots, and it's easy to implement. And you will put some program on your site or in your channel in Messenger, and there would be like several buttons. Like if you will press 1, you will get a balance. If you will press 2, you will have like rest of your последние покупки, rest of your shoppings. Last purchase, yes, and so on. But to be honest, if you have such a easy request, you will not often go to the chatbot. And if you just started for several months, like 4 to 6, you will find that нагрузка упала на колл-центр.
Load.
The load on your contact center will fall down and you will be happy. But suddenly you will realize that you have increased number of appeals. People do not want to be served by IT. And the main reason why not too many people know how to spell correctly words. And if even they will see hints given by chatbot, they don't know how to use. For example, there is prepaid or postpaid SIM cards, and not too many people know which kind they use. The same, there is a joke, maybe it would be funny even in English. One girl came to auto salon and asked to employees if there are a detail with number 710, and everyone's saying we have not such a detail. But after the girl says, it's a very big detail, you should know it, and show to everyone the крышка, the cup for oil tank, and there is letters oil, but she read it like a 710.
And when it actually comes to the recognition of what is the customer needs, obviously, like we probably slowly will be talking about the moving parts. So this, I do believe, is the most important thing, because we want to make sure that we have like a gateway, or we have like a router that will be sending the customers to different directions in order to first like minimize the interaction with the human, and second one is actually to make them to achieve their goal. And maybe one thing to add, like recently I've been talking to the customer support to a bank. So it all started with, they said like, just pronounce what do you want, and then we will try to guess. Obviously the wording was slightly different, but when the system said like, oh, probably you mean you want to talk about unblocking your credit card, and then I was like responding yes or no. So how do we go about like creating this nice gateway?
When you have a huge amount of customers, for example, you are an Aeroflot company, but in common, all company which carry passengers by plane, how it's called?
Flying operator.
Like if you are flying operator or if you are telco operator, then you will have like, I don't know, 10 or 20 meals of users, and all of them would have the same needs. But for example, if you are serving like for Marriott and you have like 7,300 hotels around the world, around the globe, you will have a lot of difficulties. The reason why a lot of people speak on broken Russian or on broken English, and there would be some misunderstanding. For example, you are living in Dubai, previously you was living in Singapore, but if you will order tickets, for example, from United Airlines, you will find difficulties, because it is for Americans. If, for example, you will buy tickets in Australia, they do not call plane, they say PL. They do not call balsam, they call balm, and so on. So you will find that you should use the same words on the same territory. And these huge companies, they always have a very sophisticated chatbots, and this chatbot could adjust to the person. But if you are a small company, like, I don't know, 100 customers, you couldn't afford it, because chatbot, it's a constructor which would cost, I don't know, like $5,000 to $50,000. But dictionaries and so-called, I don't know how to say, dictionaries for specified areas, they cost a lot of money, because it's not just about words, but this also about phrases.
And there's also an interesting part, like there was a time when I was staying at the St. Regis in Bangkok. So apparently they also had an app where you actually should like select like what exactly you want. So you would go to the menu, and you also might be like speaking to the real concierge, like when you want to make a final decision. So the thing that you were talking about is like something that collection of the sentiments or maybe collection of the context. So who should be caring about this part? Obviously, like it might be the company, but when we come about, like some big and custom solution, what usually would be the suggestion here, especially for the big and enterprise companies?
I was working with St. Regis, with W, with Ritz-Carlton, and for these hotels, it's very easy because they could use people in the same city or almost same country. But for example, if you're working with Citibank, it's a huge American bank, they use call center and chatbots from Bangalore, from India. The same problem we have in Russia. For example, we have several call centers as Alpha Bank, and some of them would be in Minsk, in Belarus, and another country, or Ulyanovsk or Barnaul. And for example, you are calling from St. Petersburg or Moscow, and you ask those guys and girls about subway stations, but they do not know the cities, and there is no subway station in their city. So there is two lights, and you мечетесь между двух огней. You're running
Between two fires.
between two fires. First fire, to use well-skilled people who live in your city, it is very expensive. And second, to use chatbots or people from another territory. And there is no middle of it. But you could create so-called corridors. For example, you have several layers of your client. You have affluent client, you have mass client, you have, I forgot this low, there's a special name for mass and lower mass. What's the name for this layer of clients? Almost like poor, but there is a fancy word for it.
Need to think about this one.
Okay. So if you will use, for example, for your prima clients or top of the cream ace of base, you will use like people. For second, you will use a mixture between chatbot and people. For last one, you will use just very sophisticated trees with chatbots. For example, 50% of the client of each bank, they will never go to the operators. And there is also a special team. This team is trying to understand on a daily basis, how many people from first half of the client base are trying to find a way to the operator. And daily, they will change this tree to confuse the people for another day.
It's quite interesting, meaning that they're trying to more like optimize the expenses rather than to make customer happy. So actually, how about the customer happiness? Obviously, like it might be disproportional. So maybe the question that you ask about the type of the customer, I only can remember the BCG matrix. At least I could compare them with the strolling dog. So how about the bank or like any other big entity should go about making their customers happy in order to still use the chatbots efficiently?
You should use just you should create happiness just for 10 or 11% of your customer base. Those customers who has a huge consumption of your efforts, it's a bank, it's a yachting, it's I don't know, hotels. Those people do not need so many attention because they often goes. For example, I live in 5-star hotels, I don't know, maybe for 30 years already. I have no questions, so I give to hotels a huge proportion of profit, and I never use chatbots, and I never ask someone for a help. But for example, if you are just first time going to Turkey or Egypt, and you have never been to hotels, and you know how to choose. There is difference between junior or suite. How to explain FB or HB. You will asking a lot of questions, and you know. A lot of product managers and a lot of customer care teams, they think we should have all customers happy. Not all, just 11 or 10%. All other should be unhappy. If they will survive, they will go and they will enter this high level of client base, or they will go to the competitors. And it is funny because they will break heads of their teams.
Which I do believe probably smoothly brings us to another skill, which is called CRM, so that you need to know like who exactly you're speaking with and like what is their next steps and what exactly you might be selling or maybe not really selling up to them. But when it comes to even the integration of the chatbots to the companies, obviously the customer success person, they might be seeing it obviously as a threat because before they would be holding like a special knowledge, how to speak with the customers, etc., etc. But apparently they will see that they might be replaced with the chatbot. So how to go in a diplomatic yet constructive way that would be beneficial mostly for business, but not like for single people when it comes to the integrating of the service?
You know, it's a very tough question, and you will understand me right now after a small example. For example, I am a man, and I will give my phone to my baby girl, and she will try to make, for example, surprise for our mother. So this is a phone from a man, and if I will make a call, they will call me like Oleg, but I will give to my girl, baby girl, and for example, her name is Masha, and we will make surprise for my wife and her mother, Inessa. But this chatbot will understand that this request goes from Oleg. And it would be complete misunderstanding because another gender and another age will ask for something. And for example, my baby girl, like 10 years or 12 years, she would be able to order champagne or some strong alcohol, or maybe she are able to buy some sex I don't know how to say, sex dolls, sex игрушки.
Toys.
Sex toys or something like this, or cigarettes or cigars, which is impossible if we will talk with person. The same reason, it was a story, one guy from Australia, he has a quarrel with his mother, he just take her credit, was talking to chatbot with Cathay Pacific and just flew to Bali, and he ordered ticket, he ordered plane, he ordered I don't know how to transfer without acceptance of these expenses from his mother's side. And it was a court appeal, and I don't know how it will end. So if you are trying to make chatbot, you should understand that at any point you will meet a lot of appeals from lawyers from different positions. For example, you sold something wrong. Maybe there is a prescription and I could buy some kind of drugs, but it was my friend who ordered and completely steal it from me. And I need my dose because of medical prescription, but my friend already taken it from my device. And this device will say, come on, you already have your drugs.
Well, those are quite interesting cases. Now, since we also were talking about, like a different type of the customers, when it comes to the chatbot, so let's say when usually people would come to us mostly with the problems, less likely for the information, should we still try to sell or upsell for those people, or we should be not should be doing it through the chatbots?
You know, you should use not a sale term, but surprise. For example, you're trying to buy, I don't know how to say this, удилище, чтобы рыбу ловить. Fish equipment.
Fish rod.
Fish line.
Fish rod, ROD.
Fish rod, yes. For example, you want to buy a fish rod, and suddenly I will say, come on, Maxim, we have a set of 3 fish rods for different weathers. It will be much cheaper. So if you use surprise, it's okay. But if I want a fish rod and you will suddenly give me some food for dog, I wouldn't understand you. So if you have enough big data in your database, and you know, for example, in a short period, I will have a birthday of my, I don't know, nephew and so on. In this case, you should try to sell because you know the reason. But if you just want to sell, never use. You know, we have been using a lot of different techniques in telco, in oil and gas selling, and in insurance companies. And you know, if a person has a request and you will try to sell something, it's called top up or cross sell or side sell. Usually people gets angry and they write very angry отзывы,
Feedback.
very angry feedbacks. But if you will try to save their money, it would be much better. So do not sell. Try to make surprise.
Well, and the last question will be how knowing about chatbots could help to make this world a better place.
Maxim, I will tell you a story. I was in London. It was like, I don't know exactly, like 2005. And I was riding this omnibus double deck. And I was going to Hilton Park Lane, where I was living, by the way, in the room which belongs to Charles. Now it's a king of England. It was very expensive suite and so on. And suddenly I realized that I look at an ad on double deck high side. It was saying we are insurance people talking people to people, and I was thinking, why is they so happy to use so expensive way to talk? But in 5 or something like this years, I understand. In a very short period, I was completely surrounded by chatbots. Those would be in Viber or WhatsApp. They were on sites. They were in phones, and you know, you became tired. You couldn't feel personal touch. You could not go through this in a very hard way. By the way, several months ago, suddenly one Russian bank, Sberbank, take some money from me for some subscription, which I never does. And I was talking to chatbot. And when I was denied for first time, for second time, then I created a tree with all possible variants. And then I tried to break this black box. But I'm IT guy. On the 7th attempt, I got my money back because I fraud this chatbot. But usual people, if they in a hurry, for example, they miss plane and they want to change, I don't know, carriage, they should be go to operators. A lot of companies, they divide client base, as we talked before. And if you make call from your mobile phone or you're calling from abroad, so you are in roaming, so you count your money and you count your time, then you will be put it on operator, so-called VIP line instead of info line.
А мы рассмотрели навык чат-боты и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!